So this is Norell, and I'm here with Frey, and I want to go ahead and just tell us a little bit about what you're doing here today at Young Progressive Majority of Minnesota's event.
Yeah. Well, you know, Young Progressive Majority right now is a group that is really on the forefront of a lot of these issues that we're going to be confronted with over the next 2 years. I mean, they're doing a ton of work opposing the constitutional amendment, which is coming up. They're doing a ton of work, for instance, opposing the gun bill that went through, and I can talk about that in a little bit. But most of all, they're really a great group, and Sarah Clark, who's over here waving in the background, has really been leading the way, I would say, along with Cassidy, in organizing the youth. Because what's happened is you've got all of these young people which really care about the issues, but they don't necessarily know what to do, and they don't necessarily know who to talk to. They don't necessarily know how to organize to ultimately get to execute on the other end. And I think Young Progressive Majority has done that really well. I mean, you got Amy Klobuchar here now. You got a United States Senator talking to a bunch of young people at a picnic. I mean, that's grassroots at its finest, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what we have to do to get the word out.
Yep.
So, and then you have you and your wife, Frey, are kind of behind and pushing a lot towards to protest the constitutional amendment at hand here for threatening marriage equality, and that would be the big gay race taking place this October. You want to give a little more information?
Yeah.
Get the word out?
Yeah. Well, so just to give a brief recap here, there will be a constitutional amendment that will be on the ballot, and the question is they're going to try and make it so that marriage is definitively between a man and a woman. Now, that's already a law on the books, but what they want to do is change our Constitution. So it will literally be written into our Constitution that people are not equal. And that's wrong. There's some issues that really have two arguments. If we talk about the budget, I don't really agree with them at all, but at least they have an argument. This is one of those things where there's really no argument at all. You just can't recognize it. I mean, when Martin Luther King gave his "I Have a Dream" speech, he didn't finish the speech up and say, "Oh, well, you see those cops over there with the German shepherds and the hoses, and they have a point too." He didn't say that. I mean, this is an issue that shouldn't even be an issue. And my wife and I are really working hard to one, raise some money, two, to raise awareness about the idiocy that this is even an issue today. So this October 15th and October 15th in 2012 as well will be the Big Gay Race. And the Big Gay Race is a 5K that'll start in front of Wild Roast's new location, which is a cafe. It'll be on Main Street in northeast Minneapolis, so literally just across the river, that area where there's a bunch of bars and everything. It'll start there on the cobblestones. It'll go down the river, across the Stone Arch Bridge, up the west side of the river, across the Plymouth Avenue Bridge, and back in. It sounds like a long way. It's really not that bad at all. But it's happening. We've got Gay Pride Festival coming up here, the parade, a whole lot of events that weekend. And if we can really all rally around a cause, and when I say rally around a cause, it shouldn't just be gay people, the people who are getting screwed over that are doing the work. It should be everybody. It should be African Americans working to help the gay people out in this. It should be union members. It should be farmers. It should be businessmen, businesswomen, you name it. We should all be behind this cause because it's what's right.
Absolutely. So that brings up a very good point here. Is you guys are directly involved with the Minnesotans United for All Families.
We are.
And so you just want to talk a little bit about what they're about, and we'll get an interview with them as well.
Yeah. So this is great. There's this organization that was created recently. It's called Minnesotans United for All Families, and there are 3 or 4 major gay rights organizations that have been created. One is Out Front, one is Project 515, another is HRC. There's several of them, and basically they've all come together. It's like the meeting of all the superheroes or something, and around one cause. And they've all come forward, and now they're Minnesotans United for All Families. And that will be the organization that's opposing this constitutional amendment. If you've got money, give it to them, because they need it. We need to get done what's right here, and they're doing a great job. So check it out on Facebook as well.
Yeah, and do you have a website or something you want to give a shout out for people who want to follow and stay in the loop of things?
Yeah, the website, you know, I said last week, I think, that the website was going up in a week. Website's going up in another week. But if you check out thebiggayrace.com, it should be up very soon, and it's also on Facebook, so if you just write in, you know, The Big Gay Race, you're going to want to check it out. But what a lot of the money here, if you don't mind, I don't know if you guys are running out of batteries here, I'm talking my brain out, but some of the money here was also going to benefit the people who were affected by the tornado that just ransacked North Minneapolis. And there's a lot of people that are struggling. I mean, if you look at a few specific roads, a few specific blocks, they've got whole roofs that are just knocked off. I mean, people's houses are in the position where, you know, they could be looted. They're literally protecting their families. They've lost a ton. And these are people that have already been screwed over in many senses. And if you have you know, two hands, if you've got a brain, if you've got some money, lend a hand, lend a brain, lend some money, because they really need it right now.
Even a toothbrush.
Even a toothbrush, toilet paper. I mean, all the stuff that you use on a daily basis. Hopefully, you're gonna want to give it to them because they'll need it. Also, what you're seeing right now is a situation that is all of a sudden sort of rearing its head, where you had landlords and sort of these vultures that swooped in a few years ago when the economy really tanked, and they started buying properties on foreclosure. So buying properties for like $20,000 that were initially worth $120,000. There's nothing against the law about that. You know, they bought the property for very cheap. But then what happened is they started doing this thing called rent to own. And when you hear rent to own, it's super appealing. It's like, oh, this is a great idea, I'll rent, and then all of a sudden I'll own the property. But there were like 20 billion strings attached. What these people found out is they're renting. They're paying $700 a month, but since they were renting to own, their landlord, quote unquote, was not actually a landlord. That person was no longer forced to make repairs. If the sink breaks, that landlord didn't have to fix it. It was all on the responsibility of the tenant. And what they also didn't know is that 5 years after they started renting, the full payment on their loan became due. So they paid $700 a month, and then all of a sudden, in order to actually stay in the house, they needed to pay $90,000. Ultimately, they can't get a loan to pay that amount, so they go into default, they lose their home, and the place goes right back to the landlord, who can do the same thing again. Now, the landlord makes out great either way, because if somehow this person manages to come up with the funds, the $80,000, they just made an $80,000 profit, because remember, they paid $20,000 to begin with this place, and they sold it for $100,000. So whether the individual ultimately goes into default, in which case they get back the property, or the person is ultimately able to pay for to get the funds and pay for it, the landlord is making out sweet. So that's something that, you know, you're going to have to read the fine print on some of these contracts, but we're seeing it over and over and over again now, and we're going to have to do something about it, because these people, once again, are, I mean, this is sort of the theme of the day, are getting screwed. Yeah.
Devastated.
Yeah. So that's what's happening right now in the community. Oh, also, the gun bill, if I might talk about this, because this is actually kind of close to my heart as well. The last guy, yeah, go? Okay, I'm going. I work with a group called Protect Minnesota, and what they do is they work with anti-gun legislation, so that people don't get killed unnecessarily. And what the Republicans had, is a law that they were trying to push through, that it would allow people to shoot first and then ask questions later. And I'll give you an example of what the present law is, and then what they were trying to do. So this is the present law. Under the present law, what exists now, if you are sitting on the couch with your wife and your children, and you're watching a television show, someone busts in your door, you could shoot them in the face immediately. You don't need to ask questions, you don't need to retreat, you could shoot them in the face and kill them. That is the present law. Now, what this proposed bill would have done, and I guarantee it failed this legislative session, but they're going to propose it again next one, so we got to be aware of what they're going to do. What this new bill would do is it would eliminate the reasonable person standard. So under the old bill, you know, when the person comes in your house, you know, you have to act reasonably. You can't just, you know, if it's a little kid who comes into your house, you can't just shoot the kid in your face. So trying to think of the best way to explain this here. Normally, you have to act reasonably. If someone comes on your property, you have to think to yourself, all right, are they seriously trying to, rob me? Are they going to rob me? Are they going to injure me? Are they going to hurt my family? And if they're not, you can't shoot them. So, for instance, if it's a kid outside who's playing hide-and-go-seek, it's not reasonable to assume that that kid is going to hurt you or your family, so you can't shoot him. This new bill would eliminate the reasonable person standard. It would allow you to shoot that person in the face, whether or not you're acting like a fool. So if someone comes onto your property, you can assume that he's going to steal and shoot him in the face. Now, I think you can imagine the problems that would arise under this. My wife and I were, just the other day, we were watching TV. Some guy came up on our fire escape. And initially, it seemed like, this guy might try and break in our house. I don't know what he's doing. So we walked over to the window, and I knocked on it. I say, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to fix your roof. The landlord told me to come over. She said there was a bit of a problem." So I could have shot this guy in the face that was trying to fix my roof, that was trying to help me out under this new law. Whereas under the old law, all they're asking you to do is say, "Hey, what's going on?" Think about it before you just start shooting. And I don't think that that's unreasonable. I don't think that that's, some sort of violation of our rights. So, watch out. The bill was ultimately defeated this session, but it will come up again next. So we're going to need to be aware.
All right, sounds good. So people got to be awake.
People got to be awake. They got to be. That's a great theme, actually. So to sum it up, you got to be awake when you have your landlord coming to you with some sort of contract. You got to read the thing through. Know what all the words mean, all the fine print means. When there's a bill that's being proposed at the legislature, learn about it. Read the bill. Yeah, you can go on the website and figure out exactly what's in this bill and what the ramifications. Absolutely, what the ramifications of that bill are. If somebody's telling you to vote on something, if they're, for instance, telling you to vote against someone else's rights, think about what that means. Think how it would affect you. If it doesn't affect you at all, which is the case here, this is not a mandate. This is not saying you're a dude, you have to marry another dude. This is saying allow people to marry the one that they love. And that's really not too much to ask if you just gave it some thought.